This is the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show, and today I'm pleased to have
John Wetton
on my show.
Hello.
How you doing today, John?
I'm doing very well, thanks. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally, really stoked to be able to interview you and talk to you.
I'm glad to hear you're stoked. Warms the cockles of my heart to know that you're stoked.
I just saw your biography. I didn't realize how many bands you were in before Mogul Thrash, but Mogul Thrash was that the first band that you were signed?
Yeah, it was the first band that was signed to a label. It wasn't the first record I played on, but it was the first band that I played with that got a record deal. I did some session work before, oddly enough, for the same label, RCA. But Mogul Thrash was the first band that I was in that got signed to a label.
How did you go from being in Mogul Thrash to Family?
I came to Family from Mogul Thrash via California, funnily enough. I was fascinated by what was going on in California in the late 60s.
The girls?
Well, one in particular, Joni Mitchell.
Really? I know, I love her music.
For me, that was Joni Mitchell and the Beach Boys. I thought there's something really special going on here. You know, there was an atmosphere about it that I really, really enjoyed. And I thought I've got to go and check it out, see what it's like.
Were you a little scared, or had you already toured around and been?
No, I'd never been to America before. In 1970, I toured Europe, but no, I just got on a plane. There were some friends of mine who were playing at the Troubadour, and they kind of guaranteed me accommodation.
A place to crash.
A place to crash, yes. I didn't want to just get off the plane and.
It's too scary. It's way too scary.
So I had these friends coming over here, and I thought, oh, it's a perfect opportunity. They were going to provide me with a little bit of money and some accommodation, and I could check the whole thing out for myself. And it started a love affair for me with California that is still going today. And I only moved back from Los Angeles to London 3 years ago. And I'm also already considering moving back to California again. I just find it, you know, I said on stage in San Francisco about 4 nights ago, when I get off the plane in California, I feel like I'm home.
Yeah. And
more so than when I get off the plane at London Heathrow. More so than that. So for me, it's more than a second home. It's a kind of spiritual home, if you will.
So how long were you with Family?
With Family, I was with Family for 1 year. 2 records, 1 year.
And what was the last year that you were with Family?
It would have been 72.
Okay, so 72. So then this connection with Robert Fripp.
Yeah, with Robert Fripp, I've known him since I was 12 years old. And we, although I wasn't born in Bournemouth, I grew up in that town. And Bournemouth is a very cosmopolitan town. There's a lot of language schools there. So every summer there's an influx of foreign students who come over to learn English. And with these thousands of students, they have to be entertained. So there are thousands of clubs in Bournemouth, or at that time there were, with live music. And so there were lots of bands who would play, mainly cover bands, you know. Yeah. We'd play old soul stuff, and but it was a very good grounding. And of course, there was a network of local musicians. And one of them was Jim Cregan, who later played with Rod Stewart's band. Robert Fripp, I guess Al Stewart.
You knew Al?
I met him a couple of times in Don Strike's guitar store, but I knew Robert a lot better. We were more connected into the same kind of music. And with Jim Cregan, he was a good friend of the people in Family. And when I came back from California from this trip where I came out to check out Joni Mitchell and that kind of music. And literally the day I got back, I got a phone call saying, would I come down and audition for Family the next day. I auditioned and got the job, and that was it. A year later, after 2 records, I got a phone call from Robert Fripp saying that he was breaking up the band and wanted to do something new. In fact, I'd had a call before that, but it was a different kind of situation with him. There was a band between the first King Crimson and the one that I was in, which was the Islands band.
Yeah.
And it was very much 3 against 1. There were 3 guys who wanted to play in a particular style, and poor Robert was over here, stuck up against the ropes, and he called me, I think more as an ally, to get me into the band as a like-minded person. And I said at that time I didn't feel that was the right circumstance for me to join. But about 6 months later, we were chatting, and he'd said that he'd just killed that version of King Crimson and was thinking of starting something totally fresh. And it may not even be called King Crimson, but it would involve himself, myself, and Bill Bruford, and I found that tremendously exciting. And that was sort of what happened. We started playing together, and within a few weeks it became obvious that it was going to be King Crimson. And that would have been in for 20 years if I'd had my choice.
Yeah.
We used to play theatres, usually around about 2,000 or 3,000 seats, and that was very comfortable for us. We'd play smaller places, we'd play bigger places. And in fact, our last show, I think it was on July the 1st in 1974, we played Central Park in New York, and that was just excellent, the best ever. It was a tremendous concert. There was just an enormous amount of energy about it. But that was it, that was the last show we did. We did record another album after that. We recorded this album called Red, but we never, in fact, took that on tour.
Yeah, that was kind of disappointing.
It was disappointing because it was a really good record.
That version of King Crimson disbands. Then you're playing with Roxy Music.
Yeah, I fell into Roxy Music.
Now, to me, that would be kind of humbling to have to take a back seat, because Brian Ferry is mainly the front person in that band.
He is the front person.
Yeah. Do you have any reservations?
No, because I didn't really do it as a career move. Because of the Crimson thing, I spent the next couple of years floating. I did Roxy Music, I did Uriah Heep, and it was really just killing time until the right people were available to form UK, which was the logical step on from King Crimson. For me, UK was the Crimson that had broken up. If there wasn't going to be a King Crimson, then I would create one. Bill was my obvious choice of drummer. The one great thing, apart from a good friendship with Phil Manzanera that came out of Roxy Music, was that I discovered that they had an incredibly talented keyboard player who at that time was about 18 years old.
Jobson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of brought him to the party. Bill brought in Alan Holdsworth, and that was it. UK was formed in 77. The album was released in 78.
Was that a really fun time for you?
Yeah, making the record was fun. We toured endlessly. We toured probably too much, particularly with the second version of UK without Alan Holdsworth. We did, I think, 200 shows, and it was just a lot of road work. And at the end of that, we didn't actually break up. We just decided to take a little bit of time off, and those 2 months turned into 15 years. I didn't see Eddie again until 1991, again in California.
Yeah.
When we talked about doing a project that we're working on now, which would possibly be UK
Reformed.
4. Yeah. At that time, 1980, we were moving into a new decade. UK was on ice as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
But, it was not dead. It was just we'd worked too much together. We were burnt out.
You needed some time off.
Yeah, absolutely. So I went off and did a solo record.
Caught in the Crossfire. That's a great album.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Martin Barr plays guitar on that.
That's right.
You always seem to play with these virtuoso musicians.
Well, the nice thing about England is that it's like a village, and everyone knows everyone else, and most people are pretty friendly. If you pick the phone up, and I've just been touring with Tull, with the UK Open for Tull, hundreds of dates, and picked up the phone and asked Martin if he was interested, and he said, yeah, sure. And the same thing with Simon Kirk, who played the drums.
Yeah, from Bad Company.
Yeah, and that was my first kind of essay into solo albumship. What happened was I started off with a drum machine, a 24-track machine at Phil Manzanera's studio, and I played everything myself, everything, the lot. And then I replaced the drums with Simon Kirk playing the proper ones. I put saxophone on, Martin Barr replaced the guitars on some tracks. And I wrote nearly all of the stuff myself. There was one track I co-wrote with Pete Sinfield, but it was my first stab at a solo album. I know better now that for me it's better to collaborate with people and then make choices after you've done that.
Were there any expectations in releasing the solo album that you had? Did you think it was going to sell 1 million copies, or?
No, I didn't know what it would do, but it got a great review in Billboard first week out, and I thought, oh well, this is just, you know, a little bit of luck. Also, we had a hit with it in London on one station, the main independent station.
Was that Turn Up the Radio, or was
no? It was called I'll Be There. Nothing happened. The album really just, there was no interest, and I sort of went into my management record company offices and said, so what happened?
They didn't push it. They didn't get behind it, apparently.
Why am I not doing anything?
Yeah.
No interviews, nothing, you know. And they said, well, John, you know, if you'd been 5 years younger, maybe we'd have done something. I was 30 at the time. So I was...
Which is young.
Yeah, I was not old, you know. Not as old as I am now. And so I left there, and I left that office that day and said, I'm never going back there. You know.
So that was, EG was bye-bye.
It was bye-bye that day. And I went to see a guy called Brian Lane, who...
managed Yes.
Managed Yes, yes. And my wife-to-be was working for him then. I used to spend a little bit of time with Brian, and we'd go for lunch, and he was always saying to me, if I managed you, you'd be much more successful. And I'd say, well, no, I'm really happy with EG. They're straight guys, and they're very honest, and they may plod along, but it's good, you know, I'm happy. And I came along to him and said, I'm not happy. Just, if you want to do something, let's do it, you know. And it just so happened that about a year previously to that, no, let me see, go back a bit further. It goes back to about 1975. There'd been an executive from Atlantic Records called John Kolodner.
Oh, yes, I'm familiar with him.
Who had taken me out for lunch and given me like the pep talk of all time, and said, this was just pre-UK, in fact, and given me the pep talk that was, this is very nice, you're playing with Roxy's music, but you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
You should be doing something which is your band, you know. And we kept in touch a lot, and he became a kind of, if not a guru, a kind of a touchstone for me. Everything that I would do, I would run past him. We'd call each other endlessly. He'd send me records to listen to, and generally sort of point me in directions, you know. And when it came to moving to Brian Lane that day, in 1981, I think it was, he was the first guy we called. And that really was the birth of Asia. I'd already been writing the material, and Kolodner was giving me a lot of encouragement and said, yeah, that's good, I like that. No, I don't like that so much. This is good, this is a great song. And that's really where Asia was born, in 81.
When you first got together with Steve Howe, did you feel like this is somebody I'm going to be able to get along with and work, or was it more, whoa, we're writing these great songs together, and you're just blindly like going into it?
It was sticking my toe in the water. Brian Lane had said that he thought that we could form the axis of a band. What was to happen after that was we tried a million different people for this band.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
What are some of the notables?
I wouldn't really want to say, because nobody likes to.
Okay, that's quite all right.
For the world to know that they failed an audition.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't really like an audition though. It was just that there was so much resting on this that a management and record company wanted to be so sure that it was right that they had to sort of eliminate all other possibilities. So we tried a few people out, and it boiled down to the four of us, Steve Howe, myself, Carl Palmer, and Jeff Downes. And we were happy with that. We wanted it to stay that way. There were just certain people around us were interested in trying out other possibilities, and really they didn't work. It had to be those 4 people. And then we set about looking for a producer, and we did the same thing. The revolving door in the rehearsal room.
But I've read in interviews that you really wanted Mike Stone because you had heard the Journey Escape record, and were pretty pleased with the way that sounded.
Yeah, I thought that was right on the money.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
That was a great sounding record.
Exactly.
And funny enough, years later, I met Steve Perry in Los Angeles, and I said, I believe we have someone in common. And we started talking about Mike, and he said, yes, that guy gave me the 2 best sounding records I ever made.
I know.
I said, well, join the club. That's absolutely right. Mike did a great job. We knew immediately he walked through the door. That was it. We was talking the same language. We had one guy, an American guy who shall remain nameless, who produced a lot of 60s and 70s stuff, who said, wow, I know exactly how this band should be recorded. One mic in the middle of the room, live. And I went, I don't think so.
You wanted to get that rockabilly sound, Buddy Holly and the Crickets.
I don't think so. So Mike came in and said, yeah, however many tracks you want to do, let's do it. And he just had exactly the right attitude. And for me, Mike and I met before a rehearsal, just chatting to the guy for like 10 minutes. I knew that he was totally on the same wavelength. And I asked him what he'd been doing since he'd been working with Queen and all those other great stuff that he'd been an engineer on. And he gave me the Journey Escape album, and I said,
yeah.
For me, you got the job.
Yeah.
And
totally.
he was the right guy, definitely the right guy. There was no doubt about that. He was as much a part of that group as any of the members were. And we're still good buddies today.
The first Asia album had such a different sound than the second Asia record. Mm-hmm. Okay, Alpha wasn't as progressive as the first Asia record.
As the old saying goes, it takes you 20 years to write your first album and 20 minutes to write your second one. That's all the time you're given. The machine dictates that after you've had a big seller, you must have another big seller. And because Jeff and I had written the hits on the first album, we were kind of squished into the studio in Montreal and with Mike Stone, and told to get on with the second one, And we wrote the record, we recorded it, and as the last fader came down on the last playback, I thought we'd got the completed album, and John Kolodner was standing behind me while the playback was going on, and just as the last, I was exhausted. I've been in Canada for 55 years making this thing, and just as the last fader came down, he said, "Wetton, you don't have the single." I went, oh God, oh no, please, you mean I need to do some more? And so the next day, Jeff and I wrote "Don't Cry," and that was what really saved the life of that album. Because of what it was already, if we'd been given another 2 years before we made that album, it would have been a different beast. Yeah. But because of what it was, "Don't Cry" saved its life. But in fact, "Don't Cry" exceeded everyone's expectations in terms of how it performed. It did great. I mean, it hit number one faster than any other record previously, I think, on the Friday Morning Quarterback. But, as you quite rightly say, the album didn't have the same depth.
Yeah,
it was too much of a pop album.
Yeah, although the song you wrote, "Midnight Sun," that is a masterpiece.
Oh, thank you.
Then there was some kind of altercation, if I can use that term. Okay,
probably a mild version of the word, but yeah.
Where and I have my own thoughts of probably what happened. I read some things in Circus Magazine at the time that Steve Howe was a little upset that he wasn't getting to put his 2 cents in on the record, and that he was going to be bail out of the situation. What happened with the whole Asia and Asia?
Do you know what? I don't really know what happened, because all I know was that we were halfway through a tour, and the second half of it was cancelled, and so this huge Budokan Asia in Asia thing was put together by MTV, which I was told I was a part of it. I was advertised on it, and that I went back from Detroit halfway through this tour that had been cancelled halfway through, and after 2 weeks in France, I was feeling much better, and feeling more positive about the whole thing. And I made a call to Jeff from a payphone in a French village somewhere and said, we should really try and finish off some of this work that we started. And he said, I think you should get back to London. And I said, why is that? And so his words were, Brian Lane wants to replace you with Greg Lake.
Big
and I
mistake.
went,
Big
what?
mistake.
What? No, Greg's a friend of mine, but what has he got to do with this equation? Where does this, Anyway, that was it. I got back to London. Halfway back to London, I'm thinking, why am I doing this? If this decision's been made, what difference is it going to make me being there? And I had a meeting with Kolodner. He was very shy about it, and said that decision had been made, and so.
What a joke. That's a joke, man.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
I don't like when people play with other people's lives.
So that really knocked the stuffing out of the group. That was it. The group from that moment was over.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I think Asia was like the big nail in the coffin for the band.
The fact of the matter is, it wasn't me.
Yeah. And if the band,
regardless of, I won't comment on Greg.
No,
as a part of ELP, he's wonderful.
Oh, absolutely.
And as a part of King Crimson, he was wonderful.
Absolutely.
But he wasn't Asia.
Exactly.
And from that moment on, Asia was never the same again. Really.
Okay, and now the next step was, out of the blue comes this Astra record.
Yeah.
Now, how was the foundation built again for Astra to come out?
Oh well, this is how it gets messier now, because really I should never have gone back. I should have just said, okay, that's fine. You don't want me. Get on with it yourselves. I hate using the word should, could, or would, but in this case I have to. I should not have gone back. I had a lawyer that was telling me, an American lawyer, saying, don't even think about working with those people again. They've just done the worst thing that could possibly happen to you. So just get on with it. We'll fight this. We'll get you a new contract. There are plenty of people interested, and you just go off and do what you have to do, So I was like a kid that had just had the candy taken away from him. I wanted it back.
Yeah.
At any price, I wanted it back. So I got it back on one condition. My condition was that if I came back and got the band back, that Steve Howe must leave, and that's exactly what happened. Now it's kind of running over old sores now. But
yeah, I'm sorry to do that to you,
no, that's
buddy.
all right. That's okay. It's okay. I now bear Steve no malice at all.
Yeah,
but we just couldn't be in the same band. But at that point, we were flogging a dead horse.
Yeah.
But in fact, the album we came up with wasn't bad at all.
I wanted to ask you about Rock and Roll Dream. Where's the inspiration come for a song like that?
Rock and Roll Dream was, musically, Jeff had almost finished it. All that was missing was the lyric and the part of the melody. He'd almost finished it as a kind of rock opera type thing. And I think it was an attempt by Jeff. He'd written this piece of music before I came back into the band, and I think it was his attempt to move the band back into a more kind of progressive area, which was probably quite a sensible thing. When I came back in, that was one of the first things that we worked on. Now, Jeff and I work on songs in various ways. Sometimes we'll sit down at the piano together and come up with a song in an afternoon. That happens a lot. I will say, I've got this melody that goes like this. It goes, heat of the moment, heat of the moment, heat of the moment. And you'll go, oh, well, I got a verse that goes like this, and you dovetail them. And because we come from similar backgrounds, musically and socially, it usually works. Sometimes I will come in with something that's nearly finished. He'll come in with something that's nearly finished. He gave me the backing track to Rock and Roll Dream.
And you wrote the lyrics.
And we worked on it. We worked on it as the beginning of this new era of Asia.
Where do these lyrics come from?
It's exactly the story of what happened in the previous year.
Great song.
Well, just the chorus, Rock and Roll Dream is not what it sings.
Exactly.
I personally think that the third album is a better record than the previous two.
I would
but it
agree.
doesn't have the single. It doesn't have the Heat of the Moment. It doesn't have Don't Cry.
But Go was good. Go was.
But it didn't.
It didn't take.
It was like the potato that nobody wanted to have in their hand. It got thrown around to all and sundry, and everyone dropped it. And after that, it was. There was just no interest in the band at all. It was.
So then this band dissolves. You never toured to support the album at all.
No.
And
As I said, interest waned overnight.
Yeah.
Overnight, the potato was dropped.
So then after that, you did the Wetton Manzanera album. This is '87.
Yeah.
Where were you in '86?
86. I did a couple of shows with Carl Palmer at the Marquee.
Okay, were you in a formation of a band called EWP with Emerson, Wetton, and Palmer? Were you?
No.
You were never part of something like that?
No, it was suggested but never happened.
Would you have been up for that?
I don't know. It totally depends. For me, it has to work in the rehearsal room. It has to, or the studio. It can't be done on paper or a boardroom.
Was there a spirit of camaraderie in the bands you formed? And if so, which is the most memorable?
Though I can give you sort of, for me, milestones, which are the main bands that I consider that I was part of, were King Crimson UK and Asia, and it took me a long while to give up on Asia. There was a kind of renaissance of Asia in '89, where we got Pat Thrall in to play guitar, and quite honestly, it was the best version of Asia ever. It was great, and we came up with a single that was #1 on AOR across the country, Days Like These.
Days Like These, yeah.
We didn't come up with it, Steve Jones did,
Yeah.
but we recorded it.
Am I in Love is a great song.
Oh, thank you. And as we moved into a new decade, whereas Asia had come out of an old decade positively into a new decade, as we were moving into '90, I felt that it was just not the right place to be for me. I just crossed the border into 40 in 1990, and I thought, if I don't do something different, worthwhile, satisfying now, I never will. This is it. I really, at that point, wanted to continue working with Jeff. There was no doubt about that. But he had just got a new manager who I couldn't get on with at all. And I had an offer from a gentleman who's going to be here tonight, called Jordan Harris, who was running Virgin Records at that time. He'd heard some of my demos and said, "Come and make a record for us," And
Battle Lines.
Battle Lines.
Yeah.
That was my. That was what I wanted to do. That was my passport to do it. And so I wanted to make music that was more emotional, that was more personal to me, and that was the time to do it. If I hadn't done it then, I never would have done it. I'd still be playing all those old licks, doing the old metal salute.
Yeah.
But I don't do that. Yeah, I don't do that anymore.
Battle Lines. I finally got my hands on a copy of that a few years ago. I mean, I remember it took forever to come out over here in America.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
And I felt like this is a masterpiece. Hold Me Now, another great. I mean, can totally relate with the relationship thing, like being in love with somebody, but it's not working out, but yet you just want to hang on to them because you're so in love, you don't want to let the past die.
But it's about my mother.
Oh, really?
I couldn't really let go of her. What I wanted to do was to write a song, and it took me forever to write that song because it was such a difficult subject for me to deal with. And we had a tough relationship for a long, long time, from my very early childhood up until my teens, when I just couldn't wait to get out of the house, and that was it. I left and I didn't really go back. And it's only been the last couple of years that we patched it up at all. And that was a real kind of a cry from the heart. And I wanted to get it out, but it was so difficult for me to write it. And I didn't want to write it like a Dear Mum letter. So what I tried to do with that song was to make it so it could be applied to any relationship. But in fact, you wouldn't know unless I told you that it was about myself and my mother. It could be just a straightforward love song, which it is, but the love is between the mother and son, not between boy and girl type thing. Yeah. And I think on that level it works very well, because it's that song and Battle Lines are the two songs that I still play on stage now, and they're by far the most popular live songs that I do, apart from a couple of oldies that I slip in.
I like Right Where I Want It to Be.
Mm-hmm.
It's very inspirational. You don't perform that live though?
Well, I won't be performing it tonight because tonight's an acoustic show.
Yeah.
It's a slightly different emphasis on stuff with the acoustic show. I try and do stuff that is more personal. I mean, sometimes it turns into like stand-up comedy, you know. In some of these places you get guys that have been, they know every note I've ever played, every song. Well, I do virtually half and half electric shows and acoustic shows. Last night in LA was an electric, full-blown electric thing. During the electric show, I normally do 3 or 4 acoustic numbers because I really enjoy doing that now, and it means that I have this direct contact with the audience, which for 25 years I stood there and shouted at them, and now I feel that they like to be talked to occasionally, and they really seem to appreciate it, you know. So the acoustic shows give me a perfect opportunity to do that. They also afford me the luxury of being able to play songs the way they were written, like on an acoustic guitar or on a piano. And I sometimes say to people, you know, if you think I got the lyrics wrong, I didn't. This is how they originally were written, you know. And it's people like that. A lot of people like that. To have the opportunity to see the song in its naked form.
Yeah.
And you know, Heat of the Moment started off its life as a country and western song.
Wow.
I know. It's funny.
That's pretty heavy duty.
But you'll hear it tonight closer to the way it was originally written than you would at an Asia concert.
There seems to be a theme of love gone wrong and retribution in a lot of your songs.
Yeah.
But no, I like this. Okay, this is what I like about your music. I want to know if they're autobiographical, getting your fingers burned, stuff like that, or Get Away. You know, when the goods were for sale, you didn't want me, but you know, you're out of here.
Yeah. I found that was the most potent emotion in me at that time. And it's been a long journey for me. And when you eventually get to hear this new album, Archangel, it's where I was dipping my toe in the water with Battle Lines. I have just taken my pants off and jumped in the deep end with Archangel. But it's very positive. There's a lot of emotional stuff on there, but it's very positive. What I was writing in the Caught in the Crossfire through Asia days was a little bit negative.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was still heartfelt, and it was autobiographical.
Well, I felt it was positive, though, in a sense that that the songs dealt with relationships where here was a person doing you wrong, but in the end, you would always come out victorious.
Yeah, well, that was my kind of a bit of a macho.
I liked it though. Yeah. I'm into it. It's cool.
It's slightly different now. In the new album, everyone gets to win. It's a more positive message than the one that I was giving over in the 80s was. And I got some terrible letters from women about Heat of the Moment and Only Time Will Tell.
Yeah, because when your looks are gone and you're alone.
Yeah, they didn't like that one. But the thing with Don't Cry was an attempt to redress that balance a little bit. And Don't Cry was like a hug, as opposed to Heat of the Moment was a punch in the face.
Yeah.
You know? So Don't Cry was a hug, and the first letter I got from a female about Don't Cry was, there you go again, bitching women. And I said, you haven't listened to this, have you? You know, it's, you know, the first line about hard times you had before you know, I know you went after you. She'd taken it completely the wrong way.
Yeah.
She hadn't really listened to it.
What is John Wetton listening to right now on a CD-wise? Like, what's a CD that you listen to a lot when you're on the road right now?
I don't, is the answer to that. I don't listen to anything on the road.
Okay.
At home, I think the last 4 CDs I bought were by female solo artists, singer-songwriters.
Cool.
Alanis Morissette, Annie Lennox, Tori Amos, Bjork. The bands that I think are really good, especially from coming out of Britain, are Kula Shaker.
Oh yeah, they're great.
Manic Street Preachers. Manic Street Preachers are excellent.
I haven't heard their album.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful, great songs.
I'll have to check it out.
Great songs. Really powerful, well-performed, well-produced, great songs. Kula Shaker are very nice.
I really like their sound. They have the British sound.
Well, it's like the Beatles meet Led Zeppelin somewhere in India.
Greatest achievement to date?
This new record. This new record was difficult for me. As I said, Battle Lines was putting my toe in the water. This one I've completely bared my soul on, and for me, I think it's the best thing I've ever done. And a lot of people who have heard it, and you'd have to get a Japanese import to hear it right now, but a lot of people who have heard it have said the same thing, that
I was talking to some
it
fans
really,
out there.
it really is me. You know, it's. There are different achievements. I was really happy when Asia sold shitloads of records, because having been told 2 years previously that I was over the hill, to be able to turn around and stick one finger up to my old management company and say, oh yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Power.
Take that one, you know.
Exactly.
That was very nice. That was very nice. And in a way, Asia was a fulfillment of a dream for me. So was King Crimson. On an artistic level, King Crimson was a very powerful couple of years for me. So there are quite a few bits of my life that I really feel very pleased with.
Cool.
You know, but maybe the best is yet to come. You don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
I certainly have no intention of giving it up.
Stopping? No way. You shouldn't. Who is your favorite sex symbol?
It's
kind of a fun question.
someone called my fan club the other day. I don't want to sound like I had my fan club. My appreciation society in Holland, and the young lady that runs it said to this guy who's flying from Kansas City to New York that he probably wouldn't be able to just get half an hour with me, you know. And he said, well, I'd buy him lunch. And she said, John would buy Michelle Pfeiffer lunch, but maybe she wouldn't want to have lunch with him.
So you like Michelle Pfeiffer then?
I like Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, she's
the type. She's very nice. But if I had to choose, I would, apart from my wife, obviously, a kind of fantasy would be maybe Darcy Bustle. She's a ballet dancer.
Oh, really?
For the Royal Ballet.
I haven't seen her. How old is she?
She's about 21.
She's 21. That's a good age.
She's hot.
Cool. I'm into it.
And there's a German violinist called Anne-Sophie Mutter, she is so good. And I think that is part of it. You know, when you watch someone performing, an artist performing who is really good,
yeah,
and they're hot, then you've got the lot. You know.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
So for me, it's Michelle Pfeiffer is a superb actress, as well as being, you know, very nice looking, physically attractive.
Yeah.
Darcy Bustle is a brilliant dancer. She dances for the Royal Ballet in London, and Anne-Sophie Mutter has to be seen and heard to be believed. She's
I'm gonna have to check this stuff out.
Oh yeah, she's wonderful.
Cool.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll start falling in love with her too.
So, yeah, I reckon a suite at the Carlisle in New York.
Cool, bro. That sounds great.
For the afternoon, you know.
Excellent.
Yeah.
See, boy, we think a lot alike, my friend. Okay,
Who did you think I was going to say, by the way?
I thought, well, a lot of people say, well, Marilyn Monroe or Audrey Hepburn, you know.
I know they fall into the category of... I was never turned on by the 50s thing.
Okay.
Elvis leaves me cold, you know. Even though I did see him walking out of the 7-Eleven yesterday in downtown LA with a donut, you know, there he was. But no, his stuff was not melodic enough for me. The big turnaround in music for me came when the Beatles and the Beach Boys hit on this sort of putting melody with R&B. That's when it really got interesting for me. So I find the same thing with nostalgic films. The Humphrey Bogart thing does nothing for me at all. It started getting interesting for me in the 60s.
Yeah, me too. Have you ever seen Beyond the Valley of the Dolls?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you need to get that.
Yeah.
I mean,
you need to check out Darcy Bustle too. She's really out there.
Okay, I will. I'll
we'll do a trade. I'll send you a video.
Okay. Tell us about your biography, because I didn't even realize you had one out.
Yeah, it came out yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's not an autobiography. It's written by a journalist from Philadelphia called Kandancha, and she's done a lot of research on it. It's very accurate. There's a lot of really good quotes from people who are close to me. Last night in LA, this lady said to me, "God, you're a cute-looking kid." And I said, "Yeah, what happened?" You know.
Well, hey, look at me. Do you have any regrets?
No, none at all. None. I can't afford to have regrets.
That's good.
I can't. I have to live every day as it comes, and I'm, as Monty Python says, I'm just happy to be here, Brian.
Yeah. What's next for John Wetton?
Well, I play. This is the last show in California tonight. I play 2 more acoustic shows in New York. I go back to Germany. I play 8 shows in Germany, all electric shows. That takes me up to about the end of June. Then take a little bit of a vacation. I need a vacation. And then the album is released in the US on the 1st of September. It's released in Europe on the 1st of September, and the whole thing starts again. I tour Japan in October. I've just done a 2-week promo yara 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 tour of Japan, and it seems to be going pretty well there. And so I've every reason to be hopeful about the future.
Do you ever see yourself putting another supergroup together or being a part of another supergroup?
No, I'm working with Eddie on this new UK album. Whether that will ever tour, I don't know.
Will you release it at least?
Oh yeah, it'll come out. But whether we'll tour it is a different matter. I don't know. We were talking about that yesterday. You know, we both have our own careers now. But you know, I really enjoy working with Eddie. We always had the greatest fun. We have very similar ideas. We come from similar backgrounds. We just sometimes did the old headbutt in musical terms, really. But we're getting on better now than we ever have done. I'm getting on with more people. Robert Fripp and I speak a lot now. We didn't for a long time in the 80s, and I'm getting on with a lot of people better now than I ever did before. There are probably some people I'll never speak to again, but I can't afford to bear any animosity towards people. It's too negative.
Exactly.
And I can't afford to have regrets.
Exactly.
So every day is a new adventure for me.
If you were asked to rejoin King Crimson, would you do it?
Well, it's a different band now, that's the thing.
But if they said, John, we want you as a lead singer now, and we're going to try to take it back to the good old days or whatever, you know?
You know, the thing is that things change. Sometimes it's impossible to go back to the way it was before.
I know.
God, that's a difficult one. But yeah, I mean, it is the band that I wanted to be in for the rest of my life, so I'd have to think about it very carefully. But at the same time, I made a decision in 1991, early in 1991, not to do that ever again. Now, that doesn't preclude doing other projects. So I would certainly consider doing another project with
Robert.
persons, Robert, certainly.
Bill.
Certainly I'd work. Robert plays on Archangel, so we still work together in that respect. Bill, I hope, will be working with us on the UK project. So that's really where I want to stay. I want to stay doing what I do, and if other projects come up, then I'll do them as they come along.
John, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Eric Blair from The Blaring Out Show with
John Wetton.
signing off.
The Blaring Out Show.